In case you missed it last night and are just waking up to the news, Scott Morrison has scored a remarkable win, a miracle election victory as it's being called. Bill Shorten is stepping down as Labor leader and Tony Abbott is out of the parliament altogether. It was a night of big surprises with even bigger ramifications. The Prime Minister now enters the pantheon of the greatest Liberal election winners, pulling off this win despite 6 years of infighting and more than 50 Newspoll defeats. He is now vested with enormous authority to lead his party and the country with a proper mandate. Labor is now searching for a new leader. Anthony Albanese, as I reported last night, will be contesting the leadership. I can now tell you this morning that Tanya Plibersek is also likely to contest the leadership. They're both at the left of the party, the right of the Labor Party, still working out who it's going to back at this stage. Labor will also be searching for a new policy direction. Its negative gearing plans have now been rejected at 2 elections. Its franking credits plans have also now been rejected, driven away older voters clearly in different parts of the country in droves. And a debate is also underway over whether Labor went too far with its ambitious climate policy as well. There's no doubt it'll be a while before we see an opposition of either stripe take that sort of bold policy vision to an election again. It was a big risk. It did not pay off. The polls, the pundits were wrong, and while Australians have embraced the status quo, this election result will reshape the political landscape by prompting some soul-searching and a new direction on the left of politics. And just for a bit of icing on the cake for Scott Morrison, it looks like the Senate will be even kinder to the government than it might have hoped. Clive Palmer won't even be there, despite spending some $70 million, it's estimated, $70 million on all those ads. He may still scrape a Senate seat in Western Australia. We shall see. Let's take a look at how the count finished last night, the state of the House. Here we were at the end of the count last night. And as you can see on those numbers, with 75% of the vote count, the coalition sitting on 74, needing 76, the target for a majority. Labor on 63 seats, a bunch of crossbenchers there, 8 still undecided. We'll get to where those 8 are, but the government would need just 2 more of those to get to a majority. Even if it doesn't get those 2 more, of course, it can count on Bob Katter's support. You would expect to form a minority government, but the reality is a majority is now more likely for the coalition. Remarkable result. The blue on the left of that chamber, that virtual chamber, shows you the story. Let's take a look at the primary vote share, and the coalition now on 41.3%. As you can see, this is beating all of the opinion poll suggestions as to where they would land. 39% was as good as it got in the Newspoll and the other polls, but they've come up with 41.3% across the country. The Labor vote down at 34% nationwide, the primary vote. The Greens, 10%. You can see the various other results there. One Nation, 3%. The Clive Palmer UAP, United Australia Party, still at 3.4%. So those 3.43% for those 2 minor parties, much bigger in Queensland, of course, and that has had a big impact on hurting Labor, punishing Labor in Queensland and helping the coalition in that state in particular. And the 2-party preferred result, let's take a look at this, 51.7% to the coalition, 48.3% to Labor. The swing to the government of 1.3% at the close of count last night. So we still have a bit to go, and perhaps we'll have a look at some of the cliffhanger seats, those that are still undecided, that will determine just what sort of majority the government ends up with. So here you can see the ones that are leaning at this stage in the count towards the Liberal and those that are leaning towards Labor. Blair leaning towards Labor by 2,400 votes. Boothby in South Australia, the Liberals still in front by 1,300 votes. Chisholm, this is one that Labor were very confident of winning in Melbourne, but right now the Liberals are still clinging on to a lead, a narrow lead of 320 votes. You've got a couple of others there where Labor's a bit more comfortably ahead, Cowan, Eden Monero, and a few more just to finish this out, the cliffhanger seats. Lilly, Wayne Swan's old seat, Labor probably will hold on there. And Macquarie, well, that was a bit of a shock last night. Up in the Blue Mountains, the Liberals ahead by some 600 votes there as the count continues, and Wentworth still up in the air, but Dave Sharma for the Liberal Party, 800 votes ahead of Karen Phelps, likely at this stage to return to the Liberal fold.